Okay, this is the second half of Topic 1, Lesson 2 discussion. This is the slide that we left off with the first half, where we were talking about different landforms on the Earth's surface. So we finished off with the coastline and dune. So, what is a delta? It is when a river reaches the ocean, the water slows, and sand, clay, and sediment in the water sink. It then builds up. So this right here, this is a delta. This is what it looks like. Okay? How did maps used to be made? Well, believe it or not, they were made by walking and sailing and modeling what they saw. So as they walked or sailed, they drew what they saw as a map. In surveying, map makers determine distances and elevations using instruments and principles of geometry. Okay, this is an example of a surveyor. Okay. Today, people use computers to create topographic and other maps from aerial photography and satellite imagery. All right, so it's a little more complicated than it used to be. All right, getting into maps as far as topographic maps. Contour lines. What do contour lines show? They show elevation, relief, and slope. Contour lines that are far apart represent flat areas with gradual slopes. Contour lines that are close together represent steep slopes. A contour interval. It is the change in elevation from one contour line to another. And an index contour is usually every fifth line. The line is darker and heavier. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. This space right here represents contour interval. Okay? So that represents contour interval. This dark line right here, you see how it's darker, represents index contour. Okay? V-shaped contour lines pointing away from the summit. This is called a ridge line. V-shaped contour lines pointing toward the summit represent a valley. So the two differences, make sure that you understand the differences here, okay? Pointing away from the summit, ridge line. Pointing toward the summit, valley. A contour line that forms a closed loop represents a hilltop. So a circle, basically a contour line that forms a closed loop, a circle, represents a hilltop. And a closed loop with dashes inside represents a depression or hollow in the ground. What is aerial photography? These are photographs being taken by cameras mounted on airplanes or drones. All right. So now this is a big This is something fairly new. Okay, drones used to take aerial photography. And what can satellite images show? They can show plants, soil, rock, water, snow, and ice. So over here in this case, as you can see, the green represents, of course, plants. The tan would be soil, rock, so on. Blue is water. Okay. This little white patch here would represent snow. All right. So those are examples of what satellite images can show you. GPS, which stands for Global Positioning System, it uses satellite signals to fix the location of a radio receiver on Earth. And in our case, it is a phone. Some of your grandparents might still have a GPS unit they put in their car, but most of us use our phones to do the same thing. There are 24 satellites continuously, and that should be sending their current location and time to Earth. A receiver, an example would be your phone or my iPhone, needs info from at least 3 satellites to determine its location. So it can't just be one satellite, it's got to have at least 3 satellites to determine a location. And the last slide, GIS. This has been focused on a lot in this lesson. All right. This is an example of GIS and what it can do, different layers. Okay. GIS stands for Geographic Information System, which is a system of computer hardware and software used to produce interactive maps. And different types of information stored in GIS are called data layers. So each of these is a data layer. And you can pile one on top of another or just have one showing. All right. So that is the last note or discussion point for lesson 2 from topic 1. All right.